I'm told it's a season of the giving of the Torah. But isn't there another holiday when we celebrate with the Torah? Simchas Torah, right? So why are we celebrating it twice? Why two festivals to remember the same thing? The answer is that on Simchas Torah, we conclude our annual reading of the Torah. We end the book of Devarim, Deuteronomy, and immediately begin anew the book of Genesis, Bereshis. We have reason to rejoice at achievements of what we've done in the past year, so we celebrate. But how do we celebrate it on Simchas Torah? We dance with the Torah. Is the Torah scroll on the bima? No. It is in the aisles. It is open? No. It is closed and covered. Why? Because on Simchas Torah we are reminded that even if a Jew has, God forbid, not opened the Torah all year round, he still has a spiritual place in the Torah. Even if for him the Torah has been a closed book, nevertheless, every Jew has a deep-rooted, innate connection to Torah. As we read on Simchas Torah, the famous words, Torah tzivalonu Moshe morosha kehilas Yaakov. The Torah that Moses commanded to us is a heritage for the entire congregation of Jacob. Each and every single Jew, the entire congregation, all of us have an intrinsic relationship with Torah. Torah is not the private property of the intellectual elite. Scholars or simple folk, academics or the unlettered, Torah belongs to one and to all of us. But there comes a time when you have to open the book. We don't dance with the Torah wrapped in its mantle all year long. This is reserved for Simchas Torah. But we also have to open it, to read it, to study it, to ask, to learn, to become more familiar with our heritage. We need to know the Torah from the inside, to understand the Torah as a textbook too. That time is every day. But the anniversary of the giving of the Torah, Shavuot, that's exactly what we're celebrating. This is why we celebrate the Torah as a book of wisdom, a moral code, an ethical system, and of course a guiding light in our lives. Shavuot reminds us that the Torah is not only a beautiful, cherished ceremonial ornament to revere, to dance with on Simchas Torah, but really the Torah is the source of our wisdom, our knowledge, our understanding about life and how we are to live it. Let me share with you a story. There were two sisters. One married a rich man. The other husband was poor. Yet ironically, it was the wealthy sister who was the unhappy one. Her sister couldn't understand why she could be so miserable. Your husband supports you, handsomely. He buys you beautiful clothes, expensive jewelry. Just look at your diamonds. So why are you so unhappy? And the wealthy sister said, actually, I'm jealous of you, my sister. You may be married to a poor man, but you have a wonderful, loving relationship with your husband. Yes, my husband does buy me expensive things. It is true that he does spend money on me, but your husband spends time with you and mine does not. So while it may be true that we adorn our Torahs with exquisite velvet mantles, precious silver crowns, breastplates, bells and pointers, and all the expensive ornaments, they don't come close to the time that we spend with the Torah itself. And so the Torah is unhappy and cries out, thanks for the silver, thanks for the decor, but what I really want you to do, I want you, your time, your mind, I want you. It is surely one of the sad ironies of our contemporary world that we live in today, that we have the most educated generation of all times, and yet we still remain so ignorant of our own heritage. How is it that we have produced the most successful people in professions, in commerce, in industry, yet the knowledge of our priceless Jewish wisdom is sadly at an all-time low? Why is it that our most brilliant legal minds have never ever read a single page of the Talmud? Why should our most sophisticated computer whiz kids not know which way to hold up a prayer book? Why should Ivy League professors be content with the Jewish education of a 12-year-old and otherwise intelligent, mature adults, think about it, satisfy themselves with the Jewish syllabus of a nursery school? So here we are, dear friends, about to celebrate Shavuot. So on Shavuot, What's happening? We are reminded that we need to open the book and spend some quality time, meaningful study time with the Torah. So in practical sense, this is a season for all of us to commit ourselves to a regular time for Torah study. In every community, there are so many options to choose from. Whether we are in our, wherever we are in our level of Jewish education, it has to be an ongoing one. We must find fixed times for learning Torah. And these times that we set aside for learning Torah should be non-negotiable, so to speak. When I'm learning, I'm learning. And because this is the season of the giving of the Torah, we are assured that the Torah will indeed be given to us once again, if we but make that sincere effort to acquire and to learn it, to study it. And surely, hopefully, this Shavuot will be for us not only the season of the giving of the Torah, that was God's job. That's God's job. He gives the Torah, but also the season of the receiving of the Torah, which is, of course, is our job. I'd now like to continue by sharing with you an amazing story. An amazing, we read, of course, in the Torah, in the book of Exodus, it depicts the dramatic tale, story, after the Torah was given at Mount Sinai on Shavuot. God carved out 2 tablets. On those tablets were engraved the 10 commandments. Presented them to Moses on Mount Sinai. Now when Moses came down the mountain, what happened? He sadly observed that the Israelites had created a golden calf. They made an idol. Seeing this, Moses threw the tablets from his hands and smashed them on the ground. After a very powerful confrontation with God, Moses persuades Hashem, as it were, to forgive the Jewish people for their betrayal. Now Moses, acting on God's instruction, carves out a second pair of tablets, which were to replace the now smashed first ones. The actual second set of tablets was given to us on Yom Kippur. That's why it became an important day of forgiveness, because we were being forgiven for that terrible sin. Now when the ark was built to be located inside the holiest chamber in the tabernacles, in the Mishkan, which the Jews were to erect in the desert, guess what? In the ark were placed both sets of tablets. The second whole pair of tablets, as well as the fragments, the broken pieces of the first smashed tablets. Now, to understand why this was, why were both sets put inside the ark? You would think that the first set was smashed, and that's over, and get rid of them, hide them. And yet, ultimately in the ark, in the Mishkan, both sets, the second set, which were hewn out by Moses with God's engraved letters, and the first broken set. What's the deepest significance of this? And certainly as we prepare ourselves for Shavuot and reaffirm our commitment to Torah and Mount Sinai and all that we all represent, I'd like to share with you the following story. After the war, a Holocaust survivor came to visit his one-time spiritual master, the famous Rebbe of the Hasidic dynasty of Ger. His name was Rabbi Avram Mordechai Alter, the Ger Rebbe. This broken Jew had been deported to the death camps together with his wife, with his children, his relatives, and his entire community. The man's wife and children were gassed. His relatives exterminated, as well as his entire community. They were all wiped out. He alone emerged from the ashes into this vast world that had silently swallowed up the blood of the 6 million Jews. This Jew lost, everything in the camps. And he also lost, so to speak, his God. After what he'd experienced in the Nazi death camps, he could not continue believing in God, who allowed for an Auschwitz. Although after the war he made Aliyah to Israel, then known at that time it was called Palestine, he completely abandoned Jewish practice and observance. Yet he missed his old Rebbe, so he went to visit him in Tel Aviv. The Ger Rebbe himself had lost large chunks of his family in the Holocaust. In addition, nearly all of his 250,000 followers were wiped out by the Germans. The Rebbe of Ger and some members of his immediate family miraculously were able to escape Warsaw in 1940, and they arrived in Eretz Yisrael, in Israel, soon afterwards. Here was this lonely Jew who'd come back to speak to his Rebbe. So upon hearing the story of his disciple, the Rebbe of Ger broke down into tears. The man and his Rebbe sat together mourning of what they had lost. After a long period of weeping, the Ger Rebbe wiped his tears and he communicated in Yiddish the following idea. He went back to recount the farewell address to his people that Moses recounts the moment when he descends from Mount Sinai with the 2 divine tablets to present them to the Jewish people. The Torah tells us Moses, before he passed away, recounts this whole event. He recalls this whole event and he says, I came down the mountain and the mountain was still burning with fire and the 2 tablets of the covenant were in my 2 hands. And I immediately saw that the people had sinned. They'd made the golden calf. And you were so quick to turn from the path, he couldn't believe it. Moses couldn't believe what had happened. And the Torah tells us how Moses now recounts. He grasped the 2 tablets and he threw them down from his 2 hands and he smashed them before your eyes. And Moses, this is the end of the book of Deuteronomy, proceeds to relate how after much toil he had succeeded in convincing God to forgive the Jewish people for their sin. He then, as we mentioned, carved out a second pair of tablets to replace the first ones. So though the 2 sets were identical in content, containing the 10 commandments, the second pair did not possess the same divine quality as the first tablets, which were, of course, were made God's handiwork with God's script. And the second tablets were Moses. He had to make it. They were endorsed by God, but not God's own creation. Now imagine, here the Torah is telling us, Moses' words were, I smashed them before your eyes. That's what the Torah tells us. We know the story. He recounted it. He came down the mountain and he smashed them. Why does he emphasize, asks the Ger Rebbe, that he smashed them before your eyes? It seems extra, superfluous. What would happen if, suppose Moses had turned around and broken the tablets out of view? Would that in any way have lessened the tragedy? Why did Moses find it so important to emphasize that the breaking of the tablets occurred le'einehem, before your eyes? What Moses was saying, explained the Rebbe of Ger, is a very deep concept. I smashed the tablets only before your eyes. The shattering of the tablets occurred only before your eyes and from your perception. In reality, though, there exists a world in which the tablets had never been broken. What Moses was attempting to communicate, the Rebbe of Ger was explaining, is that what may seem to us as an utter destruction and chaos does not always capture the complete story. Torah says, I smashed them before your eyes. Before your eyes there is nothing but destruction and devastation. Yet, what in our world is a total disaster may be, in another world, very wholesome. As difficult as this may be to digest, the Ger Rebbe went on to say, there is meaning in the absurdness of history. There is dignity in the volley of tears. God, Hashem, who transcends all human logic and imagination, can appear to us as very indifferent and cruel, and was very much present in the crematoriums. He was being gassed, as it were, together with the almost 2 million holy Jewish children. And as difficult as it is to you and I to believe, the Rebbe concluded, I want you to know that the extermination of our families, our communities and our people only occurred before our eyes. There remains a world in which the Jewish people are wholesome. Beneath the surface of our perception, there exists a reality in which every single Jew, from Abraham until our present day, is alive. And the day will come, said the Rebbe of Ger, when that world will be exposed and God will transform our perceptions and paradigms. He will mend our broken tablets and our broken nation. We will discover how the tablets were really never broken and the Jewish people were always complete. My friends, let us be honest. These are words that can be effective only when communicated by a man who experienced the horrific suffering of the war with his own flesh. Those of us, thank God, haven't seen life in those terrible, darker manifestations. We ought to never to become philosophical experts on pontificating to others how everything is for the good, especially to those who will live through that time. Pain is not an intellectual subject. It is raw, it is personal, it is real. And of course, we must stand in humility and humble awe before a survivor of tragedy. We must remember that the heresy of a Jew from Auschwitz may be at times be holier than the faith of an American Jew whose greatest crisis of the day that he's lost his key to his second car. When the Rebbe of the Ger spoke these words, he spoke them with tears, with grief. He was not an objective preacher of the religion. Together with the Holocaust survivor, he too had walked through the tunnels of darkness. Therefore his words gave back to this broken Jew his soul, his faith, his courage. Notwithstanding the grand distinctions, we too can learn a message in our own lives as well. Many of us owned a set of sacred tablets that at some point in our life were destroyed. It may have been the death of a mother or a father at a young age, bringing to an abrupt end the nurturing and the security a child so desperately needs from parents. It may have been another form of pain, abuse, or loss that you experienced during your life, which denied you the love, the joy, the optimism that you once called your own. It may be profound fear, shame, insecurity, guilt, disappointment, mistrust, or some other kind of emotional trauma that began to afflict you at some point in your life, really shattering your inner sacredness and the divine tablets of our own life. So what do? Many of us create for ourselves a second pair of tablets in order to substitute for the first ones that were lost. But they are not quite the same. The second set of tablets lack the magic, the innocence of the original tablets that no longer exist. In the depths of our hearts, we crave to reclaim something of the wonder of the old tablets. But it's to no avail. The clock of life never turns back. Here lies an important message of Moses to his beloved people before his own demise, before he passes away. As we said, before he passes away, at the end of the book of Devarim, Moses goes out of his way to say that he smashed those tablets after coming down Mount Sinai on Shavuot, but it was only le'eneim in their eyes. There is a secret world in which your first tablets were never broken. Notwithstanding the abuse, the pain you experience, each of us possesses a tiny corner in our soul which forever remains invincible, pure, and sacred. What is more, when one's perception expands, we might discover how our shattered dreams may be part of our individual path to wholesomeness. Wholesomeness does not come in one shape. For some it comes in the form of a broken heart. What is broken in one level of perception may actually be wholesome in another. My friends, this is an important message to all of us as we prepare ourselves for Shavuot. Shavuot, once again, we reaffirm our connection to Torah, our connection to Torah and mitzvahs. And we also remind ourselves of those tablets upon which were engraved the Ten Commandments. The first set, the second set, and yet they were both placed inside the ark to recognize that every aspect of our life, that which is wholesome and that which is broken, are all in one ark. It's all part of our entire life. And so, dear friends, let us make Shavuos. Let us find time to fix, quality time to study, to learn, and to appreciate that just as Moses teaches us that there are things that we see with our eyes, but there's also a hidden side. So too in the world today, even though there are so many broken hearts and so many, sadnesses and disappointments and challenges, dear friends, we learn from Shavuos and we learn from the actions of Moses, even though there are times when we may even have to smash what we see. As Moses, forcefully let them fall and break. Nevertheless, they're part of the experience. May Hashem bless us that we should only have completeness in our life, all the tablets. And just as those letters were engraved in stone, let us remember that each and every one of us have the engraved letters of godliness, of holiness, of the soul, deeply embedded inside of us. Nothing in the world, no dirt, nothing can be taking that away. It remains with us throughout our lives. May Hashem bless us with a wonderful holiday of Shavuos. May we all merit very speedily the coming of Mashiach. Thank you. This is Rabbi Pearl wishing everyone have a great week and Chag Sameach. Thank you and good night.